This is Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Ervin.
Well, thank you so much, Parker, and welcome to Time Signatures. I'm your host, Jim Ervin, and I'm truly excited to introduce you all to today's guest. Now, each year, blues musicians compete across the globe for an opportunity to represent their particular place in the world at the annual International Blues Competition held in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, here you'll find the best of the best from all over the world competing for one of the biggest honors in the blues, being named the best overall. In addition to that contest, the Blues Foundation has established an award for the best self-produced CD given out at the IBC as a part of their mission to celebrate the blues recording and to ensure the future of this uniquely American art form. However, to get your CD recognized and have it compete for this prestigious award, the entry must first be submitted by a Blues Foundation affiliated blues society. Now, the Houston Blues Society in Texas thinks they have their winner, and having listened to this album several times in preparation for this interview, I have to tell you, I'm a fan. Here to talk about their new album is the bluesman himself, Nessie Nesmith. Mark, welcome to Time Signatures. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Man, that was a mouthful, but I got through it. You know, it's important to have the backstory. If you're going to have somebody come on, you need to know what it's all about.
Absolutely.
But before we get into that, Mark, I would like to have you talk about your earliest memories of music. Where did it all start for you?
Oh, man, music's been there my whole life. Growing up in my family, several people dabbled kind of in music. There was a piano in the living room that came from my grandmother that my sister took some lessons on, and I just kind of played on. My brother was doing drums in high school band, and we shared a room. So I grew up playing drums. That was my initial instrument. Played percussion all through high school and into college, and kind of started picking up guitar along the way. Got real serious about guitar somewhere around 2000 when I started teaching full time in Dallas.
Okay.
And I'd been dabbling and playing and writing and stuff, but I got really focused on it then. And
Sure.
I'm a lover of all instruments. I just kind of devour them. You know, I play upright bass, some piano, been picking up harmonica, just whatever I can put my hands on, mandolin. It's the best form of therapy. Art and music keeps me sane.
Yes, sir. Well, I have to ask you, did you have any favorite bands growing up, or maybe a song or two that just you had to keep hearing over and over when you were younger?
Oh, all kinds. And I listened to everything. But being the youngest of five and sharing a room with my brother had a great LP collection, great vinyl collection back then. And it wasn't like vinyl; it was just records, right? We had
Right.
And being that he's 9 years older than me, I have a sister older than him, and two in between us. So I'm the youngest of five. So they all had music around and from different periods. My brothers, I remember going through his records all the time and just putting stuff on to listen to. And some early ones, man, Led Zeppelin really hit me hard. Really hit me for the drums and for the songs, and kind of gave me that first taste of blues. They were kind of revitalizing rocked up blues.
Yes.
Rush was a big one. The real turnaround for me musically that got me just enamored in guitar and enamored in the blues came in the 90s when they remastered the collective recordings of Robert Johnson.
Oh, wow.
And I was at a CD shop in Parkdale Mall in Beaumont back when there were still CD shops, and just looking through bins, and I had no clue who it was. Didn't know that Zeppelin had ripped off all kinds of stuff from blues artists at the time, and picked this CD up off, looked at the cover, and I just thought, man, that's I need to hear this, and I took it home and I just devoured that. The first one I got was actually I think a cassette tape that wore out, and it's still on my phone today. On my iTunes and everything. I still pull that back up.
Wow.
So that was kind of the real turning point.
Sure.
in terms of worrying about guitar and focusing on blues and writing more.
Well, Mark, I want to dig in a little bit deeper here. How did you get your start in music? I mean, officially playing in a band and whatnot. Was it always blues, or were there other loves in there as well when you were first starting out?
I play, and I still to this day, I play in all kinds of bands. I mean, I'll play in cover bands. I play guitar with Courtney Hell Revier in a group we call Rustic Bird. That's kind of bluegrass Americana.
Okay.
I grew up in college. I was playing drums in thrash metal bands and jazz ensembles. You name it. I'm a lover of music in all forms, pretty much. If it's got a good song, is the basis of it all for me. But the band stuff, I guess, started by taking high school band, which is a real big deal here. My high school band was Westbrook High School in Beaumont. We marched about 300 people. So I had a big drum line. And the very first, non-school kind of band I was in was with a couple of guys I met there in Sound Power. They were playing, were calling themselves Morning Star. It was a guitarist, Billy Meineke, and Jeff Shepler at the time was playing keyboard, bass, and keyboards, kind of a Deep Purple-y kind of thing, And we had some originals, and we did some stuff from everything from Hendrix to Ozzy, and whatever, some Deep Purple kind of stuff thrown in, and whatever we put together. And we played, I guess, here and there, not much. We played at the fair, kind of stuff, But that was enough to just kind of whet the appetite for it and keep going. Other than that, most of the bands that I've been in started at a church, really. Most of the stuff in Dallas, I grew up Catholic, and was playing in church choirs, and the band I played with so long while I was living in Dallas, that's where we all met. It was at the Catholic church playing in different choirs. My current Melon Jelly, that's going to be going to Memphis to compete in the band category in the IBC. We met at Blues Jams, actually, here in Beaumont. Just hanging out, jamming some, subbing in, just kind of, we all just kind of met, different little cover bands, and Stephen Droddy, my drummer, and I really hit it off and started doing some kind of duo stuff, kind of a more blues oriented and some originals. And then we were lucky enough to latch on to Jason McCullen playing bass, who Stephen knew from another band they played in together, and the chemistry just hit. And so we've been doing it ever since.
Very nice. Now, self-producing an album, especially today, seems like it's a lot more commonplace. I have to believe that maybe COVID had a lot to do with that, but what made you pursue the route to self-produce?
I'm poor. Money. No, I've had
join the club, buddy. Join the club.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a CD in the works for forever and ever, and I've been close to having one done, and life always seemed to intervene. Back around 2012, I was real close to having one done, and I got into a messy divorce, and next thing I know, the IMAX studio that everything was running on disappeared, and so there's always been little life hap. I got started again, and then had some medical issues after some car wrecks. So there's always been something to put it on hold, and I've always written and played, and just there's not like a giant amount of money in it anymore, in selling music or anything. But what really happened that put this one together was last year I was supposed to be qualified to go to the IBC as the solo category contestant from Houston. And unfortunately, there was some error in the way paperwork was handled, so it didn't get to happen. But I had already planned to kind of be out of town in January for the IBC. But since I wasn't going to get to go, my son Benton had moved to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to take
Okay.
a job as a live sound engineer with a company there called Eat My Beats. And when he got
Okay.
there, he found out that they had this little kind of partial studio that had been started a few years before and never really put to use. So he got permission to kind of clean it out to use it as his own studio. So I hit the road and I went to Tuscaloosa.
Nice.
And for about, I guess I was there about 4 or 5 days. We recorded about 3.5 days. First day I was there, we were literally still running cables, setting up this, studio space that he has.
Sure.
And I had originally kind of just intended to do like acoustic guitar. I took a couple of guitars and I took my upright bass with me. And that was it. I thought, well, maybe I'll put bass on a couple of songs and it'll just be a guitar and vocal kind of thing. But with him there and access to his stuff and his ideas, we just expanded. So that self-production kind of thing, I think, is the only reason that this CD could exist the way it does. If you were in a
Sure.
studio paying somebody hourly, and I've spent some money for mixing and engineering and all that kind of stuff, but still not what I would have had to do at a professional, setup studio and someone that wasn't my kid.
Right. Yeah.
So it allowed a lot of freedom for experimentation, that I don't think I would have if there was a label or there was a manager or something there pulling the strings, behind the curtains.
Right. So did you utilize any crowdfunding or Indiegogo or any options like that along the way, or was this all on your dime?
No, this was all on my dime.
Wow.
So far, so the neat thing about that is that 100% of whatever happens to it comes back to me. Right.
One way or the other, right?
It's one way or the other. It's all on me and it's all on Benton. I'm lucky in that I have acquired quite a collection of instruments over the year. I'm blessed to have a wife that doesn't complain when I walk in with a new instrument of some kind.
There you go.
And I'm blessed to have family and friends that are supportive and enjoy that. So, Benton really just dove right into this. And we're real excited about how that all turned out. Rainey Kimbrough, who lent her vocals, that part I did back here on I've got a little laptop kind of set up, with a PreSonus Studio One set up on it. And I got back here and we're listening to some things. I was thinking, I'd love to have some harmonies on a couple of these songs that we didn't do while we were there in Tuscaloosa, and got Rainey to do it. I played with her off and on in some little bands around town. Jerome Cadine that did the photos shoot. We had a big photo shoot out at Woodville's Heritage Village. It's a little kind of old, history heritage village kind of thing, and they got this old church there, and so we did that. Have a video in the works, and Jerome's a buddy of mine from all the art stuff, and so paid him to come take cover photos, and he got so into it that he wrote out a storyboard for a video for A Sinner's Prayer. So we're working on that, so it's kind of snowballed, and a lot of that's just been people's enthusiasm about it, that are close to me. It's just been wonderful. So.
Well, I got to flip the page here, and we do need to talk about this new album. It's called A Sinner's Prayer. This, in my opinion, and I'm not just saying this, man, this is a monster. I think this has got some incredible potential. You've got some really top shelf stuff here, Mark. A bit of the Delta blues mixed with some Chicago and Texas blues influences. And it really is a tasty mix. Talk about your writing process for this album, if you would.
Well,
you certainly had some time to put it together, right?
Oh yeah. 50 years. 50, I turned 52 in August. I say it's a lifetime in the making, So some of these are old songs.
Okay.
Almost all of my songs, almost everything that I write. I mean, with only kind of recent exceptions from playing with Melon Jelly, writing stuff with them. But almost everything that I write starts with an acoustic guitar of some kind. Whether that's a slide guitar part or just a plain old acoustic, it all starts there. For me, if a song holds together, if it's just me with a guitar playing it, then there's something there, right? And everything else you do is just accentuate that and add something to it. All of the songs, everything I write is really about some aspect of my life. There's several songs on here that are kind of about doubt and faith in God. I grew up in a very devout Catholic family. You know, I always say my father had the faith to move a mountain, and my mother's faith would have filled the deep blue sea. You know, but it's something that I've struggled with off and on throughout my life, so there's undercurrents of that and a lot of stuff. There's songs on here literally about woman of my dreams is my wife, and those lines in there that she drinks her whiskey neat, she takes her coffee with 3 creams, she paints a pretty picture. She's a painter like I am. She's an amazing cook, and she drinks Wild Turkey 101 neat. You know, I mean, so that is my life. Songs like A Stone on My Soul, that's a real old song. I wrote that sometime around 2004, probably. I had a freak accident at school. I was teaching in Dallas, and the gym teacher had to be out that day, and subs were always in short supply. They got a sub, but sub couldn't handle the gym. The gym teacher would get like 4 classes at a time. And this is a little inner city school. So most of them couldn't handle our kids. So they put the sub in my room. I was teaching art that year. And I went to the gym, and we were running some relays, and I slipped on the floor. Somebody spilled some water or something, and I flew into an unpadded brick wall. And, you reach out to try to catch yourself. They call it a Colles fracture. So my left wrist was just shattered. It had about 4 or 5 hours of surgery, titanium plates and screws all in it, and when I was leaving the hospital, I couldn't open my hand. They'd have to pry my fingers open, after surgery. And so when I first wrote, something like Stone on My Soul, I was just full of doubt. So I was like, why me? Why God? Why, everything? Why? And so I wrote that before I could even play an instrument again. I wrote a couple of songs. I had this little studio set up in my house, my music room. And I literally, the first night that I got back from the hospital, I just stayed in there the whole time, just staring at my instruments. Because the doctor, the therapist, the surgeon, they all told me I'd never really play an instrument again. Their goal for me was that I'd be able to turn a doorknob. That's what they hoped I'd be able to do. I always relate that story to people because it just goes to show you that sometimes even the experts don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
right? If you want to do it bad enough, you can do it. But yeah, so I had a good friend of mine come and kind of clean out the room for me because I knew it was just going to drive me nuts. And he took one of my acoustics and put one of those elevated cheater nuts on it. And we worked out this thing where I could kind of Velcro a lap slide to my left arm. And I started working on lap slide with my left arm and started the bones of what became Stone on My Soul.
Wow.
So that dates back a long, long, long time. Until recently, I didn't really play it out a whole lot. We actually, Melon Jelly actually used that song as one of the ones we did in the Houston Blues Challenge. And I think in the first time that we played.
Well,
So,
Mark, according to your information page, this album won the Best Produced CD award locally via the Houston Blues Society. Talk about that win for a moment. That had to be an exceptional moment for you.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. You write stuff and you put stuff out there.
Yeah.
And you maybe have a feeling, hey, I like this song or I feel good about this, but you really never have any clue if somebody else digs it, and while I'm always going to write and I'm always going to play music, I'm always going to paint because those are the things that I have to do for me. That's like air to me, And if I don't do those things, my wife will tell you that I'm a bear if I've been away from that stuff. Well, bear isn't exactly the word she uses, but what she uses in polite company. So having it kind of validated in a sense, that hey,
sure.
maybe I'm on the right track here. And that those people that were listening to it listen to a lot of music. Most of them are also musicians or producers or in some way affiliated with the music business, right?
Yep.
They did an open call in Houston to take, CD entries. And And when I got the word back from Kirky, the president of the Houston Blues Society, I screamed out loud about it. I got the word like a Sunday morning or something. My wife comes running in. What's that? And I was like, oh, I'm going to Memphis. She's like, well, I already know you're going to Memphis because we had already won the band challenge part to go. She says, no, the CD's going too. And I'm thinking of all the people I got a text, and Rainey, because she added vocals for me, and Jerome because he did the photos, and Benton, my son, and racing through all this, and it was probably the next day when I'm really thinking, oh my gosh, it's all going to Memphis, and it was like surreal, so like pinch yourself. So.
Well, there's, I have to tell you that I have a couple favorites on this album. Right out of the gate, A Sinner's Prayer caught my ear. Definitely got that Delta blues sound, in my opinion. And of course, I love that slide. Stone on My Soul is just a flat out a killer tune all the way around to me. Solid blues. And of course, I told you that this was one of the songs where I heard some similar tonal qualities between you and my good friend Greg Nagy up here in Michigan.
Yeah.
But I tell you, man, what's that?
So thanks for turning me on to his music. He's great.
Oh yeah, he's such a great guy too. Just such a personable individual. Are you familiar with Larry McCray by chance? Do you know the name?
I'm not sure, not offhand. I don't think.
I'm gonna connect you with Larry McCray too. Greg plays in Larry's band, and Larry is he's the old Arkansas blues shouter, man. You're gonna love this guy's music. But the other song that really caught my ear was Stuck Inside. And of course, I think it's safe to say this addressed the COVID shutdown that we all dealt with a few years back.
Yeah, I wrote that during the shutdown. It was, I'm a school teacher by day,
mm-hmm.
and we had to go to an online kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, it was, restaurants are closed, and everywhere you want to go is closed. And we were ordering takeout from our favorite local places to try to help them stay in business. And And I know we know an awful lot of bar owners and restaurant owners, and my wife managed and ran bars and restaurants for decades, and being a musician, you meet all these people, and places were closing, and a lot of them weren't ever going to make it back.
Yes, sir.
And it all just seemed, incredibly almost hopeless, like there's no end to this thing. And it just seemed madness. So I wrote that during that. I actually first made a little demo record of that in my classroom because I could still get into my classroom. Just weren't any kids around. So I set up my little laptop, and I kind of laid down some bare bones about it, and forgot all about it.
Wow.
I sat there on there, and we were working on getting songs together for this CD, and I was thinking, well, I want to have at least 11 or 12, and I was kind of going through some little demo things that I had and rediscovered it. I was like, well, let's do something with this. The fun thing about that one was getting to play, kind of the orchestral percussionist in me came out, so there's like a orchestral kind of bass drum. There's a what we would have used as an anvil back in the symphonic days, which was actually a brake drum because we didn't have an anvil, but just banging on a brake drum with a hammer. So there's all kinds of extra percussion effects on there and it was a chance to really kind of get to play around on some slide lead style. Most of the slide work that I do is more rhythm accompaniment, during a song. So that was a little kind of a stretch to actually take off on some slide solos and that.
Right.
Kind of expand my horizons on that.
Since we're talking about the pandemic, how did you process that decidedly dark period? How did it affect your music? I mean, clearly you wrote, but what did that do for your trajectory, for your plans?
I wrote and I painted a lot. There wasn't much opportunity to get out to play a lot, but I did get to do a few live streams, a Southeast Texas live deal here, a couple of live streams here and there. And we did kind of a fundraising live stream. Actually, my drummer Steven had a real medical thing going, and all these musicians, most of us don't have insurance unless you have a day job like I do or something.
Right.
So we did a live stream fundraiser with a bunch of us in Rainey's backyard, like round robin, big songwriter circle join in, and so a few things like that kept you connected to the musician community. Artwork, I can show and a lot of that online, but my wife and I had just put up a show in a gallery in LaGrange, and then they shut down because of COVID. So nobody ever got to see the show in person.
Oh man.
So there were things like that are really hard to process, hard to work through, because an art show, just like a big music concert or event, is there's a lot of pre-production time getting all that together, and then a lot of stress and build up to it, and then the show itself is kind of like your release. You're finally get to see something happen from it, and so we hung the show, but they literally never even got to have an opening because it was shut down just right after we hung this thing. So things like that, and I mean, everybody's got some kind of stories about that. It's funny because Courtney Halrevier that I play with she has this place out in LaBelle called Seven Oaks Event Garden. Hands down, one of the best listening rooms you'll ever go to in your life. One of the best places to see live music. And I remember going to a show out there not long after they had lifted all the restrictions, and of course every band you see out there had their COVID song, their lockdown song, their we're stuck here song. Where I live, the weather is mostly hot, but there's a lot of outdoors to get to, so we can still get out and go around, and you could go take a hike in the woods or go to the park or the beach or something by yourself. But so there was a lot of individual isolated time or time with my wife or something like that, but not a lot of time with the community. I don't necessarily mind that. I can be a social guy, but I can also hole up with a guitar or hole up with a paintbrush for 12 hours straight and not miss interaction. In fact, I have to have that kind of time, so it's kind of wrong with that. So I got a lot of writing done. That Snow on the Ground came from not long after all that. We had a freak Isopalooza thing that kind of shut us down again, and we don't get a lot of snow and ice. So when we get like an ice storm, it we didn't have power for a week and a half, and it was like 15 degrees, and there's snow and ice on the ground. And
you're talking in Houston, or where were you at?
Yeah, we're Beaumont. We're about an hour and a half east of Houston.
Wow.
And so our water table here is so high on the ground, they can't put electric lines in the ground. So everything's up on a telephone pole. And,
sure.
And you have any amount of ice or anything, and it just knocks everything out. So it was, man, those times are, I guess what makes it easier for me to kind of make it through them is knowing that I can work through ideas musically or in paint or something, and have an outlet for it. It's therapy. Yes, I don't know how people that just have to have that kind of physical interaction, conversation with people, I don't know how they made it through. Well,
I'll be honest with you. I was a very, very social person pre-COVID, and I have found, like many have, that on the other side of COVID, I'm a lot less. I'm still a very outgoing individual. I used to love going into the office to work. I worked for the state of Michigan, and I used to love going into the office. We had like 1,300 people in the building. I got to be honest with you. I have to go, and I've been home for almost 4 years. My work computer sits right across the room from me, and I have to go into the office one day a month, and I hate it. I can't explain it. I don't like it. I don't like the lighting. I don't like the noise, all the things that I used to take comfort and solace in. I just don't get into doing anymore.
Well, I think I don't know that you're necessarily alone in that. I think a lot of people maybe took more time outside or in solitude than they ever had. And a lot of people suddenly realize, that it's not that bad, especially if you can, unplug from a phone and for a while and just go outside and enjoy it. There's a beautiful world around us, and most people are missing it because they're so tied up in technology or so tied up in a person or something.
It's amazing to me how many musicians I've talked to over the last 12 months, especially in the course of this podcast. And I generally try to ask that question, how did COVID affect you? And most of them say, it saved my life. It saved my career because I was getting burned out. I was just driven. I needed a break.
It did. I tell you what it really did for me was it gave me an opportunity to really focus on original songs. Yeah. So often as a musician, when you're trying to make a livelihood at it, especially in a local scene, you spend a lot of time as a cover band or playing covers because that's what people are wanting to hear, right? They want to hear something they're familiar with. So without that being a necessity, then I don't know that I played a cover song at home. I think I did at the live stream, a few songs here or there, but it lets you just play the stuff you're writing a lot more.
And not worry about it making money. If you get a chance to talk to Greg Nagy, you've got to ask him about his live streams that he used to do from his basement. He had a little studio set up down there, and he actually recorded some of his new album in that little basement studio.
Yeah, sweet.
But so I just have a feeling you guys, the way you are personally coming across to me, I think you guys get along great. But Mark, I'm certain. First of all, let me tell you, don't wait another 50 years to put out a new CD. I know. I believe in my heart you probably got another one in the pot ready to go. I know you got to take some time and promote this one and live this one a bit, but please don't wait 50 years because I genuinely enjoy your music.
Well, thank you. What's funny is we're in the middle of working on a Melon Jelly one right now. We're actually hoping to have it ready to go before we head to Memphis in January.
Listen, when that's ready, before you release it, get me a digital copy so I can preview it. I'll get an interview together. We'll have you on before you guys take off for Memphis and promote that album. How's that sound?
Sweet. That sounds great. Love to.
All right. But let's do business for you right now. Where can people find out more about Mark Nessie Nesmith? Maybe buy your CD, some merchandise, or even book you for a gig, man.
Sure, man. The easy way to get a hold of me music-wise is callmenessie.com or marknesmithmusic.com. They both wind up at the same spot. There's CDs available there, physical copies and downloads, and there's some shirts that have a design that I made. It's a design of a Nessie that originally did on my suitcase drum, my bass drum head on my suitcase drum that I use solo sometimes. The CD is now, as of today, is pretty much everywhere that you can listen to music. So it's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, Spotify, Pandora, you name it. Went through CD Baby, for distribution, so it's out all over. All listed as Mark Nessie Nesmith. So yeah, download it, stream it.
Well, listen, while we're talking about this, I want to read something to you that just came across my path a couple days ago. Did you know that one CD or vinyl sale earns more income for an artist than 200 hours of streaming? One $20 to $25 album or CD sale earns about the same royalties as the royalties paid on 5,000 track streams. So let me say this. I know you're encouraging people to check your music out and stream it. I'm telling you folks, spend the money, buy a CD. You will thank me for it. You're going to enjoy the music. But most of all, let's continue to support our musicians.
Oh, I share this stuff regularly too. And yeah, I do the same thing. If I have a friend's band on Lonesome, great blues rock band, you got to check them out if you haven't heard them yet. I own their CDs. I have them on my Spotify and whatever else too, but also buy the CDs a lot of times in person at a show. But yeah, I shared something like that recently. My own personal experience was that Melon Jelly, my band, has 3 singles out on Spotify that have gotten about 22,000 streams or so between the 3 of them. On the first day that I offered pre-release downloads of A Sinner's Prayer, on the first afternoon that I announced it, I sold 6 CDs that afternoon. Those 6 CDs made 3 times as much money as the 22,000 streams on Spotify.
There you go.
There's no comparison.
I have decided that I'm going to make this a part of every episode that I do, because it's important for people to understand the value of purchasing a CD. And I actually, Ronnie Baker Brooks, for example, I interviewed him last week. He signed the inside of the CD case, and I said, would it be possible if I bought another one that you could sign the outside so I could put it in the frame? And he did. And then, as my way of saying thank you, I bought the album too, because I love vinyl.
Yeah.
There's something about it. I had no vinyl on April 8th. Starting on April 9th, I have amassed over 300 pieces of vinyl, mostly blues. But I'm just having the time of my life. I love it. Absolutely love it. Mark Nesmith, thank you so much for joining me today on Time Signatures, man. Congratulations and good luck in Memphis. And please let me know how things go. Would you do that for me?
Oh, absolutely. Be happy to.
Okay, great. And by the way, the invitation is genuine. When Melon Jelly gets ready to release the album, get me the digital copy. I'll listen to it. I'll get an interview together, and we'll have you on before you guys take off. How's that?
Sweet. That'll be amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Well, that
Great
brings
show.
us this. What's that?
So you got a great show. I enjoy it.
Thank you so much. Well, that brings this episode of Time Signatures to a close. Once again, our thanks to Mark Nesmith, but most importantly to you, our listener and our subscriber, for without you, none of this would be possible. Jim Ervin reminding you that keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues, one story at a time, that's my mission. Until next time, so long.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Ervin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
You know I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.